blazing the bar, breaking ground.
How you doing, ladies and gentlemen? I'm your host, Xander. Welcome to This and That, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. You guys are going to really got a lot to talk about today. This came across my situation, and I said, you know what? We're going to have to talk about this week. So women are refusing to let the goodies go, or at least that's what they're saying, that they're going to protest, and they're protesting the Plan Bs and birth controls and their ability to have control over their rights to abortion. And it's an interesting thing that they're doing right now. Make sure that you guys like and subscribe as we get started. I want to get into this topic. I want to get into this topic real good. As you guys come in, I want y'all to know that y'all can click the link, approve the mic, approve the camera. Y'all can come in here and talk in real time. If any event that you want to be on the show, you got to be over the age of 18. So if you don't look like you're over the age of 18, you won't be brought up on the show. If you are brought up on the show, we need appropriate statements, comments, and attire. The rest of you that are going to be in the comment section, as long as you're reasonably appropriate in the comment section, we can ride you out in the comment section. If you are to the topic and respectable and appropriate, then your comments can go up onto the screen. We will work in those of you that have something, even if I don't agree with it, worth talking about, where we can go ahead and hash this thing out, because we are an open-minded, open mic, open forum platform. So you guys can come in and say what you got to say. Shout out to your friends and fam, or stick to this particular topic right here. And I'm taking on this challenge of understanding why women are refusing to give up the goodies as a way to protest Plan B birth control restrictions. So a lot of ladies are going to be mad at me. I can see right now that the last 5% of the platform that is supposed to be women is about to walk out the door today, because I'm about to say some stuff y'all not going to like. Fellas, back your boy up real quick, because I'm about to get in here. I'm telling you, we're going to have a massive highlight reel up for this. Check this out. In today's society, our social climate, we're seeing a resurge of women's rights movements. And one of the most striking forms of protest is refusing to give up the goodies in response to increasingly restrictive access to Plan B birth control and abortion practices. Now, it's a bold move, and one that's got people talking. Everybody's talking all over the place, and I might as well jump in and talk with them. In many states, women are facing severe restrictions on their access to Plan B and crucial forms of emergency contraceptives that can prevent unwanted pregnancies. Hold on. These restrictions can come in forms from age limits to prescription requirements, and they disproportionately affect low-income women and women of color. Let me keep going. What's more, many women are being forced to undergo invasive questioning and counseling before. Yeah, I choked up some on that. The invasive questioning and comments, the counseling before they can undergo getting their hands on certain medications. Oh, I'm going to tear into this topic. Feminists claim a clear attack on women's autonomy and bodily agency. Whew. The new restrictions on access following the Supreme Court's decision to overturn Roe versus Wade. Many states have implemented stricter abortion laws, which have also affected access to contraceptives like Plan B and emergency contraceptives. Women are claiming an increased concern about their reproductive rights and bodily autonomy in this changing legal landscape. I have a problem with their choice because okay, let's back this up. Let's back this up. First of all, before I go one step further, because this is going to be a long, long topic. And ladies, y'all gonna hate me, and I'm gonna be okay with it. Because check this out. Men have complained about the body count of women for decades. Women are gonna say now, even the ones in committed relationships are gonna say now that because the women are not free to make mistakes the way they want to make mistakes, have poor judgment calls, allowing themselves to freely give themselves to just about anybody with a pulse because they were freed from the responsibility of their poor decisions by utilizing Plan Bs and contraceptives, that those same women are now going to protest by now returning to the closest thing to a pure state as possible and not freely giving themselves out as readily. Some of the more vindictive ones that are in committed relationships are now going to cut off their male counterpart who probably didn't even have a choice in the matter to further attain to this active protest. These are the issues that I've said before. If you're the men want a woman that is pure. The men want a woman that does not have a large body count. Now, yes, if you are in a committed relationship with a man is going to want you to provide him with the exclusivity of who you are. But that is how you are validated through the man, is by what you do for and with the man. Now, the women want a man to be exclusively hers, and then they're going to do this. That's going to be counterproductive to their agenda, because if you are cutting your man off for the next 4 years, because you got to remember, whatever happens now is happening in the process of inauguration. And what goes into effect today will stay continuously going into effect and be ratified over the next 4 years, and can only be overturned by a pro-choice candidate 4 years from now, which means at this point that for the next 4 years, these ladies are claiming that they're going to be the closest thing to a nun, rocking abstinence as their call tag until the laws change. It's not going to hurt the single guys anything, because the single guys are finally going to get a chance to see purity at its best. The guys in relationships are going to be negatively impacted to some degree, but you also have to remember that if you are cutting off men to avoid pregnancy, you have to remember two things. First off, I told you guys for the last 3 or 4 weeks, upon first 5 dates, are you interested in children? If he's interested in children and you're not, move on. That's it. End of the dates. No further discussion. Don't convince him to not want children. Let's put a pin in this topic and we'll pick this up later. Don't let's see where things go, because if you're not interested in having children, you're not interested in having children. Okay? Women that are not interested in having children should not be in relationships with men that are interested in having children. Now, if you don't want children and a man doesn't want children, then you guys can not want children together. You guys could have that pro-choice, pro-life conversation where, if in the event that since neither one of you have children, if he will co-sign on the fact that you have the children or not, where if both of you agree that if this situation were to occur, just like a power of attorney agreement, that you can go ahead and pull the plug. However, having a conversation where he wants a child or he wants more children and you don't want any, or you don't want any more children, that relationship is not going to go over well, because you're going to force him to change his beliefs and expectations and to adhere to yours. You're not going to do anything to reciprocate for that. But your excuse is going to be, pro-choice. It's your body, your choice. It's supposed to be your body and your choice until you decide to have it. Then it's the man's responsibility to take care of it. That's 100% two-sided, because it took both of you guys to create it. If it lives, he's got to take care of it. He's got to take care of you and the child. But he doesn't have a choice in whether or not the child lives. That's unacceptable. In a pro-choice scenario, since women want to be pro-choice, they should be pro-choice to the magnitude where not only do they choose whether or not they keep it or not, but they take full financial responsibility for the child if the child lives, since it's their body, their choice. But that's not how things work. If it lives, the man has an extra expense. So if he doesn't want children, but you want children, he's got an extra expense. But if he wants children and you don't want children, he loses out on the privilege of having a child. Women control the dynamic. This protest is going to be one of the most epic protests for control. And the dynamic of control is about to teeter. Now, I have said plenty of times that I believe that under circumstances where the physical health is literally compromised, where doctors can say effectively that the birth of the child will cause some type of internalized negative impact that causes the body to bleed out or not survive the birth giving process, or in some situations where the nutrients in the body is being drained by the fetus, where the fetus is going to inherently cause the loss of life of the host, which is the adult. Because you got to remember that when the child is first created, that it first comes out like a parasite, feeding off of the host in a semi-symbiotic fashion. And if the parasite is feeding off of the host too much, the host is not going to survive. In that situation, that is when it is acceptable to decide, well, the adult over the unborn. Let's go for it. In situations where somebody's been accosted, unexpected circumstances happen, lack of consent occurred, and the perceived father of the child is nowhere to be seen or locked up for the rest of his life, with no intention or expectations of child caring. In that scenario, or scenarios related to that, yeah, you can go ahead and remove the consequences of somebody else's bad decisions. That I wouldn't have an objection to. Everything else, though, I'm completely against that, because it makes absolutely no sense. If you chose to make that decision, you chose to perform that action, you agreed to the task, then you want to be separated from responsibility if a pregnancy occurs. I don't agree with that. If you don't want it, that's fine. You don't have to want it, but you don't have to get rid of it either. You could actually just give it to the father. We have so many fathers right now that are fighting for their children in court for the longest period of time, decades, where the courts are still in favor of the mother, or at least against the father. If the child is with a female, they would prefer to leave the child there than to give the child to the father, even though the father would do a better job taking care of the child. And while we understand this, the fact is that they would first put the father on child support for the child's entire youth before giving the father the ability to raise a child in a healthier, more effective environment. And that is a huge problem. because if the father wants the child, he's never going to get the child. He'll have the adult version of the child, but he's never going to get the child. He's never going to get the diapers. He's never going to get the first steps. He's never going to get the school plays, field trips, everything that comes with being a dad. He's not going to get that, but he will get the bill. Now, on the other hand, those women, we have the women, and these are the ones that's going to be the reason why most people in this country are against the extra contraceptives and everything to that effect, is that females make bad choices, and then after they make bad choices, they're living a good life, and then after they finish living a good life, then they end up unexpectedly pregnant, and then they want to run down and go and take them a plan B. They've got 200, 300 body count, and while they're breaking records, they want to go jump on that plan B, or if they miss the plan B, they want to jump on the abortion so that they can get back out there and continue doing what they're doing. They got some adult site girls that like to make it do what it do, and they're talking about body counts as high as 1,100, 2,000, 3,000. Like, these women are doing more body counts higher than men. Then they're going to say, oh, I should have the right to use these emergency contraceptives. It wouldn't be an emergency if you had better choices, because the poor choice happened the first 2 or 3 times, but when you're like 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 in, like, it's not a poor choice anymore. Like, that's career mistake making right there. And to produce a solution to your mistake making, your residual consistent mistake making, and then take advantage of that on a regular basis, that makes no sense. Now, women are going to argue against me. They're not going to agree with this. There's going to be a lot of naysayers on the show today, and I'm completely okay with that. But let's talk about one thing real quick. When we start talking about the poor choices that women make, there's an incident that occurred in the bathroom in South Fort Myers High School, Florida, where approximately 25 young males were seen entering and exiting after school hours a restroom. There was one of the children in the school that was a female that was reportedly confirming to be involved in an adult manner with these 25 boys in succession. And this was not an attack. This was a voluntary act. Now, the problem that we have is that this child is far from old enough to be an adult and already got a body count of 25. By the time this child is 18, because it's nowhere near 18 right now, by the time the child is 18, the child could have a body count of over 100 with this kind of behavior. And it is the kind of situation where when we by no means condone this particular type of behavior as adults, regardless of whether it's a male or a female. The fact of the matter is that this is an issue that leads to, well, what happens if her poor choices get her into a level of pregnancy? Then what? Well, she's gonna have to tiptoe on over there to the local pharmacy and get her one of those plan Bs, or if plan B is not an option, she's good, because at her age she would need to get her parents' consent to try to explore plan B options. And if the plan B option doesn't work out, then she would have to get her parents' consent to go and explore getting rid of a child having a child. But if you remember back in those days, because when I said earlier in the show, when they were talking about how the women were usually the low income or the minority women that were negatively impacted by the lack of contraceptives and the lack of plan B and the lack of accessible abortion options, you also have to understand that from the 80s up until I think 2010, we had like a 20-30 year run where babies was having babies. 15-year-olds were mothers. Grandma was at 36. You understand? Like they 30, 36, and by 45, you're like, this is like fourth generation. Like, it was that serious. And that did not come from being ambushed. This was poor choice. This was sneaking in and out of bedroom windows. This was going out on dates, and hanging out at the pier, or hanging out at the cliffs, or high rises, or something like that, and you know making things happen in the back seat of a car. This was poor choices that led to babies having babies. This wasn't just a bunch of men running out there just taking what's theirs. That's not how this worked. This was willful choices. And they're saying, oh, well, population control, we're going to do plan Bs, and we're going to do the abortion stuff. Now, women are not going to agree with this, but from the gate, if you remember traditional dating back in the early 70s, late 60s, early 50s, you understand that the women were not supposed to engage in adult activities with a man until after they were married. That's where things were supposed to be. And in that scenario, the probability of you becoming a mother would be slim to none unless you had a husband. Because outside of being accosted by somebody else, there would be no reason for you to be dropping children. You should not have 5 different baby daddies and still be a single mom. You should be a married woman and have 5 children with one man. That's the old school ways. Some burning bras down the line, and now women have the freedom to, swing it the way men swing it. And now you want to say, oh, well, we're entitled to have all this other stuff. Well, look at what's happening now. In some states, women under the age of 17 that's going to need their parents' consent is going to be a major barrier for those who make poor choices, that going to end up not having the supportive family members to allow them to get the aid in rectifying poor choice. Now, those who are survivors of abuse, those are going to be the individuals that are going to need this particular type of aid. But guess what? There isn't that many restrictions for the people who got jumped on. It's the ones that are making poor choices, because you can go there with restriction and maybe get one prescription, but there's not going to be a prescription that's going to say, okay, you can come and get this, because it really actually destroys the uterus, if you really understand that, because the knocking off eggs on a regular basis, you're going to end up being just about sterile. This is actually, taking these Plan B pills is negatively impactful to an individual's health if you take too many of them too often. And the cost of the medication, that's going to be another thing that's going to be a factor that the probability of it being expensive, which interferes with the ability to acquire it, making it inaccessible to many who claim to need it. It's going to be inaccessible to those who can't afford it and those who want it. And it's a system that stacks against the women that are going to deliberately make poor choices. And it's no wonder those women are fighting back. Now, while some might think these conditions are absurd, when we consider the incident that occurred in the bathrooms of Fort Myers, Florida, and we're looking at the fact that these 25 boys were the football team, that phrase that she's been with the whole football team just happened at this school, which is not a phrase that has not been used over the past 50 years. So there are young females that make poor choices like this and go out there and enjoy the pleasures of life, ruining their reputations, and also potentially having one of 25 people becoming the baby's father, where the child ends up on 3 seasons of Murray. This happens a lot. Do you notice how many seasons where Murray just did show after show after show trying to find the baby daddy, where there were so many men on the list? And the women also didn't just have all the children for one baby daddy. They usually had multiple children. and multiple baby daddy lists. And out of those multiple baby daddy lists, they did not have the same man show up every time. It was a different dude each time. The track record of poor choices from women leads to these types of laws that says, hey, why are you destroying human lives for the sake of poor choice? And then that's just the poor choice. That's not the cruelty choice. That's not the cruelty choice. But when we look at this, we're looking at the fact that while behavior of these magnitudes, like I said before, was stuff that we don't agree with when we're dealing with the really young ones, we have to look at the fact that they're complaining about the intense scrutiny of interrogation for their ability to receive the contraceptives and the abortion options. You have to remember that in these scenarios, it is the rights of the parents to know what's going on with the children, and it is also the expectations of the Department of Children and Families to find out that the parents are doing something about giving the child the proper education and treatment, and they're going to claim that there's going to be something related to some psychological and emotional abuse, even if it is just children acting out on their own impulses. Now, I completely understand that there's not going to be a lot of women that's going to like this particular topic, because feminists are going to believe that these restrictions are not only a threat to women's health, but also to their dignity and humanity. I completely disagree. This is from a man's point of view. Women are believing, these feminists are believing, that limiting access to Plan B are essentially telling women that their bodies are not their own. That is the furthest thing from the truth. We're saying that your poor choices should not negatively impact other lives. That's what we're saying. And once you become pregnant, there is a second life there. It just doesn't have the ability to say anything. And women are feeling like they are not capable of making decisions about their own reproductive health. Men are not capable of making decisions about whether or not they can become fathers. Bring back the balance, ladies. And then it's a message that women believe is patronizing and damaging. It's a message that says, if you stay pure, which your protest will help out with, then you won't have this problem. And then when you do commit to a man, when you do give the man probably the best thing a woman can ever give a man, besides peace, respect, loyalty, admiration, and validation, is giving him a child. One, it's not an accident. And two, you're not regretting it and getting rid of it. Now, one of the things I want to talk about real quick is because not a lot of people are going to understand this, but you're going to understand this once I start breaking it down to you. The 4B movement originated in South Korea, where advocates for women to abstain from dating, sex, marriage, and childbirth as means of protesting societal norms and restrictions on women's rights. This movement has gained traction in the United States, particularly among the women who feel threatened by the current political climate and policies that limit reproductive choices. Women are not sitting over here taking responsibility for the fact that they're typically making poor choices. You have to think about the fact that those same women, this isn't all women though, because not every woman is in this protest. But the ones that are in this protest, they're not in this protest because they're not able to go and get the protection that they need after something that happened to them against their will occurred. They want to have the ability to be the free-spirited, lack of responsibility adult that they have been being for the past however many decades, and have the capabilities to stop by once a month and pick up the certain types of contraceptives and restrictive pregnancy tools that they can utilize to terminate any unexpected pregnancies while they're out there throwing it against the wall on a regular basis. And then they're going to say, don't worry about my body count because I can take care of myself. Well, yes, because you destroy every opportunity to be a good person. Nobody wants to admit that. Nobody wants to accept that. Then you also have, this is the one that I really want to talk about right before I go in to the empowerment of this abstinence movement. The boyfriends and husbands that are looking to be good fathers, they're looking to stick with the women, they're looking for the marriage, they're looking for the long-term lifestyle with you. You're probably only going to give them between 1 to 5 children, even though we've talked about in most situations that a man has been able to live as long as 130 years and put out 209 children. If he has the opportunity to procreate with his partner, she's not going to put out 209 children, because women have 1 child per year, and their reproductive peaks are between 15 and as much as like 35, 40 years old, maybe 45 years old. You're looking at about 20 to 25 years at best. The legal age is to start dropping children is 18. And from 18 to 38, you got 20 years. So if you're still able to drop a kid for another 6 years, you got like 26 years. That's a career. Where if you're consistently dropping children like species, then you might give the man 20 kids. But let's be honest, especially with minority women, after the 3rd, 4th, 5th child, start having health issues. If you wasn't having health issues after the 1st or 2nd child, so likely in this, for the sake of her physical health, you might actually stop somewhere between 3 and 5 children. As I previously said, if you're only engaging in adult activities with the man that you're dedicating yourself to for the ideally the next 20 to 50 years of your life, then you're less likely to have body counts that's so high, which means you're less likely to have the need for the contraceptives in such a massive magnitude, and you're less likely to need to have the abortions. But here's the problem. The women that are choosing men these days are choosing men for the financial compensation. They're not choosing the men for the characteristics of the man, and they're not choosing the men for the companionship. The adult interactions that women have with men are utilized as a tool to manipulate some men into doing things that those types of women would want to have done. So they'll be flown across country to have an affair with a man that they're not going to commit to. And if that ends up in a pregnancy, since that person can afford to fly them across the country to give them a duffel bag full of cash, they can afford to pay for child support where the woman doesn't have to work anymore. There have been women in the past that have used birth bearing to have an income, because the U.S. government used to pay a substantial quantity of money to cover unemployed single mothers so that those women would not suffer, so that the children would not suffer. They would still be in a low-income environment. But when you start making $30,000 to $50,000 a year off of the number of children that you have become a baby-making factory. This is still all pro-choice scenarios. But one of the most crucial ones that I want to talk about before we start talking about this empowerment movement is these specific individual women that have the mentality that because it's their body, they can do what they want to do without consulting with their partner. And I still believe that unless you both agree that it should be terminated, where you get it notarized and signed, and then you can run off and do whatever you want to do, unless that occurs, if one person wants a child, nobody should force that child to be terminated. That's my expectation. It's a uniform scenario. So she's talking with the man that wants the children. She should give him the children. But some of these women will get pregnant, not say anything about it, terminate the life, and then it might slip out down the line that the former father found out that he has lost the one thing that he wanted in this world the most. And then, the woman is going to try to apologize and tough times and stuff to that effect. And I'm curious about that. What's going on, Battle? I'm curious, why would something like that occur if you had that conversation and you know that the guy wants the kids? So as we go into this empowerment movement, do you got something you want to chime in on this, because you're a lady, or at least your profile is. Tell me, because from a man's perspective, I believe that this protest is going to be a fantastic thing for both men and women, but I don't think that it's going to get the women what they're looking for. But they are definitely some women out there that are saying that their rights are not being respected, and they're going to do this protest to, gain, I guess, respect, with the same way they burn bras so that they could have more responsibility, because the responsibility of the household was the feminine expectation, and then the responsibility of the workforce was the male expectation, and the woman's right to not only have the household responsibility but to also have the workforce responsibility was what women fought for with women's liberation. And then that shifted to a lack of responsibility in the household, and then independentness to the magnitude where women are not even remotely committing to their relationship. It's such a selfish ideology now that a man is supposed to take care of the woman, but the woman's supposed to take care of herself. She doesn't need a man for anything because she can do it all by herself. But then, when certain things that can't get done without a man being there, now the man has a purpose. I don't get it. The codependency of a relationship where both parties are depending upon one another is the most successful relationship. So I'm confused, and I'm trying to figure out why, this mentality still exists, where women are not taught to be partners. They're not taught to be wives. They're taught to be men, and then men are taught to be feminine to the women that are overly masculine, and then the women want to complain about the behavior of the men. But the men aren't allowed to raise the men to be men, and the men aren't allowed to raise the women to be wives, because the children are taken from the fathers. So if you think about the last 50 years of single mothers raising the men, who do you really point the finger at for the men becoming the way they are? Like, help me understand that. So how you doing, Bull? I'm looking to see a lot of, I'm okay with it, but I'm looking to see a lot of negative feedback. I'm hoping to have a lot of positive responses. You are right. Yes. I personally believe that it would be the women, because if you remember in the 80s with the war on crime, where they were eliminating the men in the streets before they could even get to court, or incarcerating the men long before the men had the opportunity to be good fathers. You remember that in those days that there were very few, especially in low income and minority families, there are very few dads. Oh, that's good to hear that you're getting off from work. Well, I've been spending different times on the podcast over the past week and a half, because we're trying to have a lot of dynamics go on here, and I'm trying to make sure that I have an extra time for everybody here and still be able to deal with some contracts on the side. So the podcast has aired every night of the week, but a couple of times, or a few times during the past week, we've aired at like 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, just to make sure that there was a daily podcast coming out, because before the sun rises, we are going live. That's just something that we're dedicated to do. So I have today, I was like, nah, I got to get this out early, because I want to make sure that those of you that come to the podcast and really enjoy what we have to talk about have the ability to chime in, because you can find a lot of the shows that you missed on the channel, and a lot of them are pretty thick in nature outside of business and finance topics. But this particular one, I was glad that I caught you, because I'm interested in knowing your perspective, if you have one, because you could just be like, it is what it is. Some people have that, uh, abstained vote, those individuals that don't have an opinion either way, but you could be either for or against what they're doing or what they're trying to accomplish. Me myself, I'm okay with what they're doing. I don't think that they're going to accomplish what they're going to accomplish by doing this. And I also believe that for those women that are doing this while in a committed marriage or relationship, you are really sabotaging your relationship for the sake of personal preference. And I believe that those women that are married or dating in a committed relationship, that you already started off on a specific path. If you had that conversation with your partner where the children were an expectation at some point, even if he's not going to pressure you for it right now, he's hoping to have that in the future, for you to turn around and say, well, you're going to cut the man off to protest the government now. This is the thing that I thought was ridiculous about the way they decided to push the movement. Not the single women who should inherently be abstinent until they're married. The ones that are in long-term committed relationships and married, they're joining the protest. To like, that's going to negatively impact the country. I think that lawmakers are going to be tap dancing to this particular protest. Bull says, I have no children, but I do understand. My sisters are married, and the way they program their children is sickening. I'm going to tell you. Okay, so the one of the issues that I've had with the young girls are taught that they don't need a man for anything. Men are taught, the young boys are taught that they are supposed to protect and provide the women for the women. Now, if you're teaching the girls that the men have no purpose, the men have no value, and then you're teaching the men that they're only valued by their purpose, then the women are going to inherently cause the men to have reckless behavior as adults, because with no purpose, they have no sense of duty, they have no sense of self-control, they have no sense of responsibility, because you've taken their responsibility from them. That's one issue. The other issue is, while women are teaching the boys to go and get good jobs and be extra successful so that they can be good husbands in these relationships, the women are not being taught, the girls are not being taught to be partners and good wives, which means that the men are going to have problems finding a partner or a good wife. The women are the single women, as well as the single mothers, are teaching each other to, pro women, get out there and do your thing, girl, and mistreat the men in order for the women to have some sense of power. But there's no women teaching other women to be companions with their men until they're in their late 30s. Now, you also have the women that come across negative relationships because of their choice in the type of person that they want. And I've said this on the show quite a few times, that your type might be a toxic type, and that toxic type might not be what you need. What you need is somebody that's not your type, that would love and care and take good care of you. And the fact is that these women are not willing to take the person that's right for them, the person that they put in a friend zone, that will spend all of his life's work on making her happy. But the fact is that, the women will say, well, if you can't get what you want out of the man, you leave him. And that's why we have the dynamic that we have right now, because divorce is still in a woman's favor, even though they've taken the gender expectations out of it. It is still in a woman's favor, because the person that makes the least amount of money more often than not in a relationship is the woman, not because it's a wage gap, but because women are going to choose a man that makes more money than her. So she's not going to date a man that makes less money than her. So unless she gets with the man and then has a pay raise, there's less of a likelihood for her to have more money than him upon the divorce. She walks into a relationship with less resources than the man, because she does not have to have any resources, because even all the way back in the 40s, the women stayed with their family until they got married, and then they stayed with the man. So they just transitioned from being a financial burden to the father to being a financial burden to the husband. They don't have to have resources. In modern times, they can be their own person, and they can have their own resources. They can live with their family, and then they can move out on their own and do the single life and have minimalistic resources while they work on their personal appearance. And then they get a man, and then that man is going to voluntarily take over all of their financial responsibilities. So now she walks into the relationship with good looks that she paid for, but that's it. Most women gain a brand new house off the divorce. They don't buy the brand new house and then get married, where there's two houses in the marriage. And if there were two houses in the marriage, there isn't anything that you got to do about that, because one keeps one house and one keeps the other house. The only reason why you have to sell the house and give her half of the money is because she's living in his house. Now, Bull says, is it true the children pay attention to the mother more than they give attention to the father? No, it's not. Actually, mothers use psychological manipulation to control the children. Men rationalize with the children. So inherently, the guilt trip, and all of us know about it, going all the way back to our youngest days, all of us know about guilt trips where moms and women will cry and make excuses, and and that coerces the children and the men to do whatever they want done most of the time. When that doesn't work, you have corporal punishment. When that doesn't work, you also have those situations where the do as I say, not as I do comes into play, where mom has expectations for the children, where the children are supposed to behave a certain way, but mom's not even behaving that way. Dads are going to come from a perspective where he's going to rationalize. All right, let's make a deal. If you do this, this, and this that I expect you to do, I'm going to give you this, this, and this. If you do A, B, and C that I want you to do, then you will end up receiving these types of privileges from me. If you maintain this standard of expectations, then you will receive this standard of allowances. And that is a father coming from the simple non-negotiable expectations for behavior. If you behave in a fashion that I don't approve of, disciplinary actions will occur. If you behave in a fashion that I do approve of, positive behavior will occur. Children will rationalize, which also means that a father is not going to come and say, do as I say, not as I do. A father is going to say that it's not in your best interest to do what you're trying to do, because the outcome is not going to benefit your agenda, which is something I've told you guys on the show plenty of times. But a woman will say, just don't do it because I say so. Now, I know that most of us have reached an age at some point in our life where it didn't make sense. Why are the adults telling me that I can't do something that the adults are in fact doing? The excuse should not be you are able to do reckless behavior when you are grown because you are grown. You are doing reckless behavior because you are foolish and careless. But truth be told, if you are not trying to save a life, you should not be doing reckless behavior. And you are not supposed to do reckless behavior in the attempt to save a life, knowing that that reckless behavior could cause you to lose your life before you can save a life. So all of this boils down to, do I believe that the children would resonate better with the mother than the father? No, I believe that the children would resonate with the father more than the mother, because women are inherently more violent than men. Women aren't going to agree with that. Men get in more trouble with being violent than women do. But you got to understand that the same way women throw stuff at the men, hit the men with random objects, throw drinks on the men, the women treat the children the same way. Physical and emotional abuse is going to happen from women before it happens from men. Matter of fact, women are actually more likely to eliminate their children due to anger and frustration than a man is, because men are going to rationalize it and work it out. You have to understand that men also have to deal with the volatile behavior of the adult women. So when the men get the volatile behavior of the children, we're already used to it by now because we've had years of practice with it. So yeah, I don't believe that. Now, Bull asks, I share with my parents to nurture their children, and they say the street knowledge is much more better for them than learning how to live life. I'm going to be real with you. You're going to learn a lot more stuff in the streets than what you're going to learn in your household, because the women are going to shelter the children from responsibility, and men are going to practically utilize the children. Meaning, I could tell you from a personal experience. I was dating a single mom. She had a 1-year-old and a 2-year-old. 2-year-old turned 3. I was in possession of the 1-year-old when the 1-year-old had her second birthday. A few days after the second birthday, I've got the 2-year-old mopping the floor. I've got the 3-year-old washing the dishes. The 2-year-old and the 3-year-old are working together doing laundry. The 3-year-old runs the vacuum cleaner. I'm on a computer working. Mom comes back to the house. These are not my kids, but because I'm dating a woman with children, hey, Father instincts kick in. By the time she comes back to the house is spotless. The kids' toys are put away and everything. Mom doesn't know how this happens. When it's time for bed, I say it's time for bed. The kids go to bed. Mom doesn't understand why this happens. As the respect, positive reinforcement. If the children do what you want them to do, you give them rewards. You don't have to give them rewards like buying them gifts. You can give them rewards like instead of them having plain water for dinner, you can give them juice. You can give them some Kool-Aid or something. You can give them rewards instead of spending a bunch of money on video games and stuff. You can just allow them to have an extra snack like a cookie or some candy or a cupcake or something like that. You can give them dessert for dinner because they're required to eat. They're not required to eat junk food. The junk food is a treat. The treat is a privilege. The privilege is a benefit. Positive reinforcement from positive behavior. You behave the way I want you to behave, you get more snacks. You don't behave the way I want you to behave, you get less snacks. If one child behaves the way I want them to behave and the other child does not behave the way I want them to behave, the positive child gets the snacks. The non-positive child does not get the snacks. Ergo, the child that did not receive the snacks recognizes that the behavior that earns the snacks is the child that's got the snacks. So now the one child that's misbehaving starts behaving like the child that behaves. Now the dad doesn't have any problems with the children. Dad can have fun with the kids. I've had one of the youngest child have a temper tantrum. It used to work with the mom, didn't work with me. When the child have a temper tantrum, you know what I did? I turned that into a game. The child would fall on the floor and start flailing and start whining and everything like that. I would take the most appropriate steps to grabbing a white sheet and just drape it over the child like the child was in a crime scene. Now there's no problem. Once the child realized that her tantrum was not being seen, the child would sit up. Now she looks like a ghost. I'm having the most laughs here. The child takes the sheet off of herself, and then she tries to do the tantrum a second time. And as I politely drape her back over again, like a crime scene, and there's no child. Now, after the third time, I'm having so much fun with this. Now, the other child that's not having a tantrum, do me, do me, do me. We just turned into hide and seek. Your tantrum is not my problem. With mom, it's cut that out. Stop crying before I give you something to cry for. Oh, no, I don't care. Go ahead. Lose your voice crying. It doesn't bother me at all. I have absolutely nothing to do besides, well, I do have something to do. I can go play with the dogs. But besides that, it's just like, go ahead and cry. I actually had more trouble with the mom than what I did with the children, because when it was dinner time, mom wanted to be on social media. And I'm like, look, no phones at the table. The kids were able to pay attention to that. But mom was like, you can't tell me what to do. I'm grown. You can't have one moment of your life at the table with your man and your children where he cooked, he pays all of your bills. You don't got to do nothing. He looks after your kids while you gone, not at work. And you come back and he just want to spend some time with you and you tell me that you can't do that. Get out. Which is exactly what happened. That's why she's not here anymore. So non-negotiable expectations for behavior. I'm going to be real with you. But during that entire time, she never understood why when she was home, the children didn't respect her. When she said sit down, they would jump up and down on the couch. She would say stop. They would do more. She would make requests. I wasn't having all that. I told them, you can't go outside and play without shoes on. Mom lets them do whatever they want to do. The children would stop at the doorway, look at me, and I say, if you go outside without shoes on, you're not coming back inside. That's it. That's the rationalization. So they're going to go find their shoes. My mom will tell me, she told me my entire childhood. My mom would tell me, which is probably one of very few women that were proactive about teaching the children, hey, you got to be responsible about your stuff. She used to tell me, hey, if you didn't do it, I'll always come out there and come get you. if you were in the wrong place at the right time, if you were just caught up in the wrong crowd where you just got picked up because you look like the suspect kind of situation. Because, you know, we were growing up in an era where all you had to have was a dark tan and you were guilty. So she's like, look, if you didn't do it, I'll come get you. But if you did it, you staying out there. I ain't coming to visit you on Sundays. I ain't putting nothing on your canteen, and I don't take collect calls. That's how it was. So if I wanted to be gotten, I had to not be guilty. So I never did stuff that I wasn't supposed to do. Likewise, I teach the children when I have the children now. Bottle says, this is true. I've seen this in action. It really works. It really works. Standing on your non-negotiable expectations for behavior really works. I got 2 stories now. Let me finish this one, tell you about the next one. But I have when I told the woman's children that they can't go outside without their shoes on their feet, and the woman told me, oh, well, you can't be telling my children. I'm like, look, first of all, you in my house and you're not paying no bills and you don't work. So you're 100% reliant upon me. So I make the rules. You pay the cost to be the boss. That's another thing I was taught when I was growing up. If you want to be the boss in this place, you got to start paying for this place. You know what I'm saying? But until then, I told them not to go outside without their shoes on. I'm telling you not to go outside with your shoes on. And if you go outside without your shoes on, trying to show them not to follow examples with me, I told them whoever goes outside barefoot doesn't come back in the house. So they can stay because they're still inside the house. But if you walk outside on that back porch with no shoes on your feet, you're not coming back in this house. Now, once I put them feet down, I guarantee you, she went and got shoes because the kids were putting their shoes on while she was trying to have this debate. So now the kids are outside in the yard and they're having fun. They're having a good time. While they're all outside playing, the mom comes outside with her little flip-flops on, grumpy, because I put my foot down. I go outside while the kids are playing, and I'm wandering around in areas that the children haven't played in yet with the garbage bag because there's this gigantic baseball field behind the house. After I finish doing my lap, I come back to the porch with a garbage bag half full. Guess what's in the garbage bag? Broken glass, bottles, needles, all kinds of stuff that you would see in a neighborhood where people just throw stuff out in the field, which is the exact same field that I told her, don't let them kids go outside barefoot in. It made sense. Now, I was able to show her. Everything in that bag is the reason why I told y'all not to go outside barefoot. I'm not dealing with unexpected medical bills because you hard-headed. This is the type of stuff where truth be told, men are more logical because this is where men protect and provide. You don't understand why a man is telling you don't do stuff, but he saw something, heard something, or experienced something that he doesn't want you to see, hear, or experience. And as a result, he's telling you what not to do so that you do not have to go through the trauma of what he went through or what he knows about, which keeps you safe. And this is going to be a massive problem that adult women are having right now, is that they don't want to be protected by the men because they want the freedom to be reckless. Then they want to be excused from the negative fallout of the recklessness. Then they want to be protected from the devastation of their reckless behavior. And that is the man's responsibility. Bull says, children having babies are a handful and are expensive to raise. They are. She also says, right to my last comment, that's true. They are expensive to raise. But the women who get pregnant by a man today is not going to stay with that man that she got pregnant by. If she doesn't abort the child, she's going to carry the child, use that child as a paycheck from the man she got pregnant from, and then she's going to go date and marry another man who's going to be the stepdad. So now she's getting 2 checks, because just because you remarry does not mean that the child support stops coming in from the first man. That's not how the child support laws work. As long as those from the child's birth until the child's 18th birthday, and sometimes 21st birthday, 25th birthday, dad's got to pay. Even if mom remarries, dad's got to pay. So mom's collecting a subsidy check from dad, and mom's remarried and living off of another man. So now she's getting paid twice. The kids are already taken care of. So the money that the man is giving the woman for the children, that just goes into the mom's pocket, because the new dad is paying for the children and the old dad is paying for the mother of the children. Women don't care about that factor, but that's really how it goes. The other story that I was going to tell you guys, I had a one of my students that actually, you know what? one of the reasons why, I'm gonna get to my story in a second. One of the reasons why men are handling the finances these days is because men know how to stabilize the household. Men know how to bring balance into a household. That's the reason why it is negotiation and cooperation. That's the reason why the men are handling the money these days, because 40, 50 years ago, women used to handle the money. Women used to stabilize the house. Women used to keep the peace in the house so that the man could focus on working and grinding and coming back and sleeping so that he can get back out there and make that money again. You know, women started leaving the household, abandoning the household, and the structure and order that was the woman's responsibility has now become the man's responsibility. And as a result, that woman now has no responsibility. So who's going to keep the peace in the house? We have women right now that complain about men knowing how to cook, and why should a man know how to cook? That's because women don't cook. I made a statement one time before, and they were like, "Oh, that's sexist," and I laughed because I'm like, "No, you don't think that it's a true fact?" I'm gonna tell you right now. Let's go into a couple things. Why do we have dishwashers? We have dishwashers because women don't wash dishes anymore. Why do we have TV dinners? We have TV dinners because women don't cook for their men anymore. Why do we have washers and dryers? Because women don't wash clothes anymore. We automate everything that the women refuse to do. We have Roomba vacuum cleaners that are running around, exactly, laziness, that are running around the house, vacuuming up the house. We have wireless collars for our dogs to put them out in the yard and let them give themselves a walk. Technology is built around the laziness of human beings, but the technology that's built around the household chores is a technology that is built to replace the woman's refusal to be in the house. And then the men are going to learn how to cook because nobody's cooking anymore. And then since the men because the men still got to eat. Okay. I love the way you said that. The men have to focus on something to eat. And that means that they're going to be cooks. They're going to cook for themselves. They're going to cook for the homeboys. They're going to cook for their mother. They're going to cook for their father if they live with their father. And the men are going to become really good cooks. Now, a man that says that he wants to find a woman that knows how to cook and clean, that's because this man already knows how to cook and clean. So what's he looking for? He's looking for a partner. That way he can share the responsibilities. He's not looking for a woman to take over the responsibilities. If he's got a full-time job where she could take over the responsibilities, that would be fantastic. But if he has somebody that knows how to cook, he doesn't have to cook every day. He could cook 3 days out of the week. If he has somebody that knows how to clean, he does not have to detail the house every day. He could just keep up the maintenance that she put down. See what I'm saying? Women don't look at that. There are some women that will look at the development of, oh, he wants me to cook and clean. He's misogynistic. He wants me barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen. That's where you're supposed to be at in the first place if you're in a loving marriage, even if you have a full-time career, because he's supposed to be barefoot in the kitchen with you, holding you, rubbing your tummy, and helping you stir the pot if you're in a damn good relationship. Women don't think about that part. They just think about the fact that they're in the kitchen. They're not thinking about the fact that he in the kitchen with her. She ain't thinking about the fact that if she cook, he clean. If she cooked the food, he washing the dishes. If he cooked the food, she washing the dishes. They ain't thinking about that. They're not thinking about the trade-off. They're thinking about, oh, I'm oppressed because the man want me to be out there into the kitchen. No, ma'am, no. We want you to be a partner, which means you're going to participate. You can't, the captain of the ship is not going to have all the people riding on the ship with the captain not helping out steer the ship. Some people are going to have to man the sail. Some people are going to have to hoist the anchor. Some people are going to have to scrub the boat. Some people are going to have to repair the ship. Ain't nobody riding on that boat for free. The people who ride on the boat that don't put in work on the boat are people who pay the captain to ride on the boat. Everybody who rides on the boat for free puts in labor. Same thing in a relationship. Women don't see it that way. Bull says some of us women are too focused on our appearance. Now, I'm going to tell you, you got some women that are too focused on their career choice. And then you've got some women that are too focused on their appearance. I have said this so many times when it comes to the appearance, ladies, and we're going to talk about this abortion topic in a second, but I just really want to touch on these things real quick. Ladies, the amount of money that you spend on your upkeep every month, you could, honest to God, be putting that money into real estate investment trusts. You could be putting that into high interest stocks. I spent the last month giving you guys so many investment opportunities around the world where you could be making as much as 46% interest in some countries. What was that? Sweden? That was Sweden, Singapore, and Romania and Brazil and Dubai, where you were looking at almost 46%. And in some of them situations, it's tax-free from their country, where you could take that money from your hair, your nails, your eyelashes, your lipstick, the rouge, the blush, the 3 different colors of coating, the fingernails, the waist trainer, the water bra with the lifter and the tummy tuck and the Botox and the surgery and the butt lifters and the BBLs, all of then the 6-inch shoes to make yourself a half a foot taller so that you can go get you a man that's a half a foot taller than that. That makes absolutely no sense. He's spending all this money when you could take this money and put it into a high interest yield investment portfolio where the money would be making money for you. Then you wouldn't have to work because you would have hundreds of thousands of dollars. If you think about the $2,000 to $3,000 a month that you spend on your upkeep to keep you looking like a 10, you claim that you're a 10. You're not a 10. At best, you're an 8 or a 9 with the most perfect, attractive look that you could have. Because if you are a 10, that means that you are perfect. And you are not perfect if you got a piss poor attitude. That's 1 strike against you. If you have no contribution to anything, that's 2 strikes against you. So now that puts you at an 8. If you've got habits that negatively impact the relationship, smoking, drinking, partying, dropping it like it's hot, twerking in the street, that 3, 4, 5, 6, that you'd have knocked yourself all the way back down, my man. You got a body count over 5. You got a body count over 20. You got a body count over a few hundred. You can't be a 10. Now, looks wise, Photoshop and everything to that effect, you just spent a card note, 3, 4 card notes to look close to a 9. But if I can find 1 mole, you're not perfect. If I can find 1 gray hair, you're not perfect. If I can find if it glued to your scalp and the glue ain't in there right, where I can see the line, it's not perfect. Look, I can tell you right now, look, you laughing, you laughing. But you see this straight part, the fold down to the side kind of look, I can tell you right now, that ain't even your real scalp. That's the scalp that you glued to your scalp. That's not perfect. Okay. We can see the fakeness. We accept it. But what women have to also understand is that when they say that they want a man to accept them for who they are, flaws and all, the women are actually saying that they want to not be held responsible for their bad decisions, be allowed to make the bad decisions, and the men clean up the mess. Because if a woman wanted to be accepted for who she was, she would not buy fake hair, fake makeup, fake eyelashes, fake fingernails, all this other stuff to change the way her shape really looks. Because if you're wearing a waist trainer, if you take that waist trainer off, you go from having a Coke bottle body style to having an M&M body style. That's the reason why you wear the waist trainer. If a man wanted a woman with a Coke bottle figure, you're sitting over here wearing a girder belt to give you that Coke bottle look. Then when you take that a girder belt off, you're going to expand like Cartman on South Park. It makes absolutely no sense why you do that. And then say that you want a man to love you and respect you for who you are, not the way you look. But you're going to change the way you look. Men are going to fall on your features in the beginning superficially. And you're going to say that, that's not good, that they're supposed to like you for your character. You don't bring your character to the table. Then on top of that, you don't put partnership on the table at any point in time. You put demands and expectations on there, because when a man asks you, what would you like to do or what would you like to eat on a date? Most women say steak and lobster, not because they eat steak and lobster every day, but because they're only willing to entertain a man's attention if the man is giving them steak and lobster every day. That makes absolutely no sense. Why are you going to waste this man's money for $250 a plate so that he can find out if he even likes you, which really only proves that he's wasteful with his money? And if you're looking for a man that's going to be fiscally responsible, wouldn't you find a man that could find you a nice dinner for under $20 where you guys can have all you can eat, be satisfied, have a good time, be able to talk to each other and grow to really connect to one another inside of the first date, as opposed to a man that just spent $1,500 inside of a month wowing you? Because as I said before, if you could put that much, do you know that a 20% interest off of $800,000 worth of money is about $200,000 a year? So let's dial it down a little bit. I did this show a few months ago actually. And if you were putting away the $200 to $300 a week that you spend on dates, you'd be putting away almost $1,200 a month, which is about $15,000 a year that you waste on entertainment, whether it's paying for your girlfriend or whether it's ladies paying for their appearance. Fact is, $15,000 a year, 20% interest, a little under 20% interest. You're looking at $3,000 a year return on that money. Now think about this. You put that 3,000 back in there, brings you 15 to 18, add another 15,000 to that. You're at 23,000 a year two, which will give you a little over $6,000, almost $7,000 by the end of that second year, which puts you at almost $30,000, where you're going to add another $15,000 to that, which puts you at about $45,000, which by this point, you're making almost 10 grand. See what I'm saying? The money stacks. And then you wonder why I say, nah, we not trying to deal with. And then hold on, we got Bull said, thank you for the advice. I'm taking notes to give myself self-preservation to understand relationships. You need to take this advice, because if you write this stuff down, I can tell you what, it'll work. Because the stuff that I talk about is not like men exclusive. Ladies, non-negotiable expectations for behavior works on both sides of the fence. The only difference is that men are raised by men to be partners to their wives. So men have to make themselves financially worthy of a woman so that they can qualify for the woman. But just like when they build a car, you have to qualify to buy the car after they build the car. No matter how many months and years you waited for this car to be released, once it gets out on the market, you have to afford to pay for it. That's the same thing. And once a man meets your expectations, you still have to meet his. You can have your non-negotiable expectations for behavior, and you can say, well, I want a man to treat me this way, spend this much money on me, behave this way. And you can find a man that does that. But once you find a man that does that, you got to be able to do whatever he wants you to do also. And that's the part that women object to. They feel like they should be able to behave however they want. The man is supposed to accept them for who they are and what they do. And the woman is not responsible for giving the man what he wants, but he's obligated to give her what she wants and what she needs. And the only thing the man is going to get out of that is maybe potentially sex, which is where a contraceptive comment comes from. So Bull jumps up and says, yes, 20% off. Then the rest goes to the rent, bills, taxes, and credibility. Oh, no. That's what you don't understand. It's not even 20% off. The fact is that people wait. This is party money. This isn't even like, okay, if you're living an 80-20 lifestyle where you take the rest of it, you put the 80% on your bills and everything like that. No. This is, I was going to go to the club. There was this house party I was going to go to, this rave. There was this situation where, I wanted to buy something really nice for myself. One of my friends have a birthday. I'm going to go buy them something nice. Thanksgiving, Christmas, Halloween. I'm going to go buy this sexy outfit. This new multicolored red velvet bottom shoe came out. I got to go buy those shoes. I seen this outfit on sale. Now I'm gonna go buy 3 of them. Never wear it. That's what I'm talking about. You wasting money. You could have took the money that you wasted on that stuff, and you could have took that money and invested it somewhere, and you put it into a stock that's drawing you back money. Your bills are still getting paid whether you party or not. Your bills get paid before you start partying. And if you don't have enough money to party after you finish paying your bills, you go find you a man to party for you. That's what women do these days. She'll take her paycheck and put it on her financial responsibilities, and then she'll go out on a ladies' night Ladies drink free on ladies' night. And when they don't drink free, the guys got to pay. The guys got to pay for cover. The guys got to pay for the child. I mean, the girl in the club. So just so he could talk to her, he's got to buy her drinks. If they hit it off, if she's hungry, he's going to take her somewhere to eat after they meet at the club. So he's going to feed her too. And then after all of that, oh, he's a gentleman, I'm going to meet him another time. He's going to go home without her, unless she's the kind of woman that sleeps with the man on the first date. Then the man has to make arrangements for a second engagement. Even if he didn't get laid on the first night, he has to make arrangements for the second engagement, where what is the second date? Dinner and dancing, bowling and dancing, dinner and a movie. So she's about to eat with this man at some point in time. So she ain't even got to really pay for her food because she's dating now. So now the man's going to feed her, and then he's going to entertain her and work off the food that she just ate with some exercise. And after a few days, he might get to sleep with her. At no point is she showing her value, putting in any effort into him, or in any way, shape, or form finding out what kind of character he has. She's just having a good time. When she gets tired of the man, ghost him. That's how we're doing it in 2024. Once you get tired of this man, you ghost him, you go find another man. As long as you're always in the preliminary phase, you never have to truly commit. As long as you never have to truly commit, you can actually have 8 or 9 different guys at the same time. That's basically funding all of your entertainment. And this is the millennium we're living in. The new generation is no, they're not prodigal. They're polygamous. They're almost swingers. They really run off of open relationships. I'll claim you and you'll claim me on social media. You've got a boyfriend and I've got another girlfriend on the side. You might actually have 5 boyfriends on the side and I might have 3 girlfriends on the side. When you don't got time for me, I'm just going to call another chick. When I don't have time for you, you're just going to call another dude. But on social media status, we're a couple. Soon as we don't agree with one another, it's complicated. As soon as you don't get your way, it's over. That's it. Because you got 5 guys that you're rotating out, 3 guys that are male best friends, and they're only male best friends because they're not candidates for dating. You got a plethora of people on social media that's looking at your modeling, where you're wearing over tight, scantily clad outfits, showing off your body. And now you've got hundreds of thousands of men from around the world feeding you compliments. And that's going to boost your ego, where you're talking to at least 15 or 20 of them out of every couple thousand people that drop into your DMs, in addition to the people you talk to in person, where you've got false promises, false hopes, and some people that'll actually carry that out. Some people, you might just test the waters, giving you address, and they'll mail you some gifts. You got those are the ones that'll then call you and tell you that they're flying in because they don't live to your area. They'll fly in, and then when they get to your area, they'll take you out on a night on a town and give you a better experience than the guys that you talk to in person. That's the guy you one night stand with. Then he flies back out of town. Oh, we're in a committed relationship online. Nah, that's a 304 in the making. That's what that is. And all of this stuff leads us to the empowerment through abstinence that the women are trying to gain by protesting the Plan B and contraceptives that we have going on in the new political movement. Now, I told the ladies, because while the women are getting mad, you have to recognize that Kamala Harris lost by about 5 or 6 million votes long before the landslide actually hit. So the majority of the population, women that vote, because you got to remember, half of the U.S. population, 50.1% or 51.2% is women, and the other 49.9 or 49.8 or whatever is men. More women than men in America, truthfully. More than half of the population is women. And about 66 or 74% of the population voted for Donald Trump. So, statistically speaking, who really negatively impacted the women's ability to have their contraceptives? Because I'm going to be honest with you, when Camilla was saying that everybody with a good tan was going to get $1.3 million if you can trace their heritage back to the 1940s, it ain't that far back, my dude. If you're trying to go back to the 1940s where one of your ancestors was on a plantation, you get $1.3 million. I can tell you right now, my great-great-great-grandmother was on that dang plantation. I can tell you that right now. I know. We came out the dirty South. I know. I might even could pinpoint which house she came off of. This ain't like Ancestry.com where you're trying to track Oprah all the way back to South Africa. No. You just have to track your lineage back to the last generation of slaves in America, and you got $1.3 million. What? Anybody who didn't vote for that and had a good tan, I don't know what you was thinking. And if you was a female, you would have got the $1.3 million and you would have got the pro-choice. What? And yet, 70-something% of the population voted for Trump. And out of that 70-something%, a large majority of that would be women. So dig your grave and then live in it. So you wanted to ask me something. You think birth control is much more better than giving a child up for adoption? No, I do not. I believe that every life deserves a chance. I also believe that every father deserves a right to choose whether or not his child does not come into the world, the same way every mother has the right to choose whether or not the child's life comes into the world, because both of you participated in creating a child. I do not believe that a man can tell a woman not to have a child, but I also don't believe that a woman should be able to tell a man that he cannot be a father with her. If she doesn't want the child, give it up for adoption. Give it to the dad. Give it to the grandma. Give it to the auntie. Somebody want that child. Soon as that baby's second breath happens, somebody want that child. Now you're going to say, well, what about all of the orphan kids in child custody? Well, you got to understand, Department of Children and Families taking people's children and putting them in the homes. Not all of them children are born without parents. A lot of them children were taken from their parents. And you have to fight years to get those children. Years, decades to get those children. And a lot of people can't afford that. And those people who can't afford that lose out on the ability to gain their child. The system will bleed the parents dry. Then when the parents can't afford to stay in the fight no more, they lose rights to their children. Now the children are in the system. Not every child is in a foster home because they're not wanted. Some were taken from their parents. You do have some that are orphan, but the ones that are orphans are a lot of the times based off of poor choice from the woman, not from the man. Because the New York has these safety deposit boxes where a woman could give birth in a random dark alley somewhere and take the child and drop it off in a safety deposit box. And somebody on the other side of that safety deposit box will collect the child and put the child up for adoption. You got to understand that the mentality of a man is not going to be, I'm going to get rid of it. The mentality of a man is going to be the same as when he gets a dog, when he gets an old antique car, when he gets a woman that's been psychologically and emotionally tormented. He's going to keep it and try his best to fix it. That's what men do. The same way men collect women like Pokemon cards, the same way men collect cars, the same way men collect guns, men would collect children. People are going to say, no, that's not the case. Men don't want the responsibility. Do you realize that in 2023, the bill that was passed in order to give men the rights to be fathers to their children came from a bunch of men one step away from burning jock straps in the street to fight for the right to be dads? Do you understand that the generation of men between 30 and 50 years old right now is the last generation of men that grew up without dads from the 80s and 90s, and they are dedicated to not having their children grow up without a dad? And you're telling me that the legal system is still taking the children from the dads, where the dads can't have children? You give a man that's not allowed to have his kid just because he's a man, you give that man the opportunity to adopt 2 or 3, 4 children. I guarantee you that man will go up there and pick up 3 or 4 children that nobody else wants and give them children the life that they could not get from anyone else. But do you see women running out there saying, oh, I'm going to cash out and I'm going to go get these children? Nuh-uh. She going to get that latest Prada outfit, that Gucci outfit. Where was Sarah Palin during Hurricane Katrina? She was in Texas. What's going on, Ruderus? Sarah Palin was out there in Texas buying shoes instead of taking care of the disaster relief program that FEMA was funding at the time, which is one of the reasons why millions and millions of dollars came up missing. All the dudes was out there building houses and moving trees and picking up, but Sarah Palin buying shoes. High heel shoes in a hurricane. Sweetheart, you don't need no hurricane shoes. You need rain boots. But that's where she was at. The mentality of people is not linear. Think about this, though. The reason why men don't have children inherently is because men are expected to be out at work. Men are expected to be away from the home. And because men are expected to be away from the home, the role of the female is to be in the home, taking care of the kids while the men are out of the home working. That's why the women get the children. Not because the women are better at it, but the women don't want to be at the house. And the funny thing is while men would be better at it, women don't want to be alpha boss ladies where they can make that 7 or 8 figure career. And then the women take care of the men, where the women are getting a man that has a $20,000 or less income and she funds his very existence. She gets a child, she gives it to the dad and let the dad be a stay-at-home dad, and she goes and be a career mom. American women don't want that. But instead of, burning your tampons in the street right now over the political movement that just happened, you should be saying, well, I have the right to be alpha boss ladies, because while the affirmative action laws have reduced the ability for minority men to get affirmative action relief, the affirmative action requirements for females is still in place. So if you're a female and you're a minority, you got 2 pluses on your resume. You could become a regional or district manager. You could become a board supervisor. Inside of 6 months, you could be making 7 or 8 figures, as long as you don't sleep with the boss and get caught for it before you make it to a promotional status. You can, by choice, become a career woman, make 100, 200, 300,000 a year, and support your man. And then have your man stay home and be a stay-at-home dad, since the women are raising the men to be feminine in the first place. Because answer me this question, ladies, and I know you've seen this on social media. Why is it that there are so many little girls out there boxing, karate, wrestling, all of the male-driven sports, the masculine activities, and little boys is out there dancing? So the girls are taught to be masculine and the boys are taught to be feminine. And when they get older, the girls are going to be overly aggressive, masculine. The men are going to be submissive, feminine. And the women are going to be unsatisfied because they cannot find a masculine man, because you're raising them to be submissive. It is the product of the environment that you create. The same way I can say that it's the product of the environment that men create when the women are believing that they can use their bodies to make money, because men are willing to throw money at a woman in order to get whatever they can utilizing her body. So men contribute to the adult industry that allows women to think that they can make a career out of selling themselves online. But one of the things that we have to understand is as radical as Donald Trump has been in the past 10 years, 15 years, as radical as this man has been, this is one time that he has said that he's going to do something and stuff is happening exactly the way he said he was going to do it. And I'm going to be honest with you, the 75% of y'all that voted for him, where some of y'all are a target of his agenda, y'all not going to like what's going on over the next 5 years, because women did vote for Trump, which is part of the reason why he made it in. And now those women don't have birth control. He said that he was going to make America back the way it used to be. That meant that you stayed abstinent until you got married. And how do you force the women to stay abstinent? Take away their right to get rid of the children, to take away their right to get rid of the mistakes that they make. The women, by definition, have volunteered to close their legs. Now, generations of men have begged women to close your legs and stay pure because that's what the men want. Never succeeded. Reverse psychology happened. You took away their escape plan. So if she makes that mistake and she ends up pregnant, now she's stuck with it. Now what the women are doing? Closing their legs. It's about dang time. Do you think that this protest will hurt the men? It's equivalent to, I do believe it was Europe, where 155,000 women went on strike, protested, didn't go to work, kept their jobs. The boss of the company said, we got the most work done today. The productivity increased. So the women's protest did not affect the economy because the men got more work done. Right now, in our current society, wrapping up 2024 with the soft guy era drizzle, where the women's demands are so much just to get laid, where the women are saying, you know, the men are not valuable unless the men are making almost $200,000 a year, and the most a man is going to get from the woman is sex. The women are saying that the value of a woman is going to be defined on sex, where sex is valued at over $200,000 a year. And now that they can't get the plan B, they can't get the contraceptives, they can't get the abortion if they end up being pregnant, the women are saying, well, we're going to close down a sex factory. Well, guess what, ladies? In order for you to find a high value man, now you have to be productive because you're not willing to put out. So what are you going to do to gain you a man that is going to spend the rest of his life with you? You're going to have to figure out what being a partner looks like. Now, a lot of women are going to say, nah, I'm just going to stay single. That's fine. That's fine. But I'm going to be honest with you. We've been talking about this for a while now. And guys have come to understand that the most compatible woman to a man is half his age plus 7. So the men that are in his 40s is going to be looking at girls that are 27. The men that are in their 50s are going to be looking at girls that are 28. And I'm going to be real with you. Or, well, they might be looking at a girl that's in their 30s. But they're more than likely going to be looking for under 30, especially if they want children. Right? So you're in your late 20s, early 30s. You're reaching menopause. The closer you reach, the further you reach past 25, the more expired you've become. Don't take it as an insult. It's a fact. And the truth is that the closer you get to menopause, because at 30, 35 years old, your ability to reproduce is cut to 25%. So the likelihood that you get pregnant accidentally, if not on purpose, is going to be a lot slimmer than what it was when you were between 15 and 20, 25. Okay. Now, also, when you start getting into your 40s, you're looking at probably 5 or 10% likelihood of getting pregnant. Yeah, there have been women that have gotten pregnant in their 60s. So, I mean, it's not like it's impossible. It's just highly unlikely or far less likely. Now, when you think about this, men that want to have more children are going to look at your age and say, nope, because I want kids. Not because you're not a good woman, because they want kids and you can't give them any. Or those situations where you don't want to give them any. Now, here's the other factor. Those young girls that are in their 20s that didn't go to Fort Myers, Florida, where the football team got a sample. Those teens that didn't experience that have an era of purity. Their era of purity between 18 and 25, body count might be 3. Between 18 and 30, body count might be 5. They have had less traumatic experiences in relationships. They have had less toxic and negative relationships, which means they're still willing to be cooperative, and they're still willing to be a partner. They're still willing to give the relationship their all. The first 4 men that a woman dates, that is the men that she will give her best self to. After that, she stops caring. The more men that she gets involved with, the more she starts focusing on getting what she wants out of the relationship, because the more she believes, based on her choice in men, that all men are the same. All men are not the same. She only keeps picking all of the same men, and her type is not what she wants. Her type is not what she needs. She's looking for that type. She's attracted to that type. But if you're attracted to toxicity, but you don't want to live in chaos, you will find a man that shows toxic traits. You will date that man. And then after you date that man, you will be pissed off to high heaven because you are in a toxic relationship again. Whether he's cheating on you, you're cheating on him, he's doing all kinds of ridiculous stuff, self-sabotaging behavior, self-traumatizing behavior. And the fact is that this is why I tell men and women alike that on the show that you guys need to, all of us need to focus on reevaluating our expectations and then standing on those non-negotiable expectations for behavior. Because if we're allowing ourselves to choose the type of partner that mistreats us and then says that they care about us, or that they manipulate us by saying, oh, well, if you love me, you would do X, Y, and Z. I'm going to be honest with you. No, if I was going to do it, I was going to do it. If I'm not going to do it, I'm not going to do it, no matter how I feel about you. I would be the perfect kingsman because I would pull the trigger. You don't have to ask me. I'm telling you, if you load it up, I got you. And the fact is that if you've got a ride or die chick, she's supposed to have the same mentality. If we going at it, if it should be me and you versus the world, not me versus you. If we're in a relationship where it's me versus you, that's a toxic relationship. If there is a battle for authority in a relationship, that's a toxic relationship. I say it on the show plenty of times. Women choose the man that they want to lead them. They choose the man that they want to protect them. They choose the man that they should respect and appreciate and value and admire to the magnitude that they will follow his instructions and follow his lead. If he is not making the decisions that she would prefer to be made, she made the wrong choice. And she should choose the character of a man that meshes with her expectations. She should not just choose a man just because he's rich. She should choose because he fits her agenda. Then every decision that he makes, even if she's not okay with it, she knows that it's going to be for her best interest, which means she can count on that man. She can depend on that man. She can do trust falls with that man, build trust funds with that man, as opposed to taking 20% of your income and going shopping with it. I'm going to tell you right now, the most successful incomes is 50% or less. Actually, truthfully, this is something that you really need to think about. So, Bull, real quick, write this down. You are a walking business. Your boyfriend or husband is a walking business. When you guys get married or you guys start dating and commit to one another, that is a business merger. Your company, the relationship of your company, should have an overhead or an expense of less than 40%. 20 to 30%, truthfully, but less than 40%. Which means that the profit margin of your relationship should have more than 60% capital that can be either wasted or invested. Which means the bills and stuff that you got to buy should be less than 1/3 of the combined income of that relationship. There should be no such thing as living paycheck to paycheck. There should be no such thing as borrowing against a stone. You don't borrow money if you can't make a profit off of the money that you borrowed. That's how that works. You don't go to Amscot or Cash Advance or any of those payday loan places and borrow money to pay a utility bill that's a reoccurring bill, so that you can now have the same bill that you couldn't afford to pay next month due with the reimbursement of the Cash Advance or payday loan also due at the same time. You don't do that. You stop paying for some of the stuff that you don't need. And you know what you don't need because you're not buying what you don't need. You got clothes on your back, so you don't need more. You just need stuff to keep your clothes clean. You got food in the house. You don't need entertainment. If you got a TV at the house, look, if you got Netflix and a projector, you've got a big screen TV. You don't need to buy a big screen TV. You just need a wall that's not torn up. That's it. And if you don't got a wall that's not torn up, you don't need to go and buy you a green screen. You just need to take you a pair of white sheets, hang them up on the wall. That's your projector. That's it. Projector's like $20. TV is like $500, $1,000. You could really live practical. Instead of financing a used car, buy it cash up front. If you really need the car, buy it with your tax return money. If you can't afford to buy the car with your tax, if you can't buy a cash car with 5 bands, you should be walking and catching buses until you can afford to buy a cash car, $5,000. You should not finance a $3,000 car. You should not spend $10,000 financing a $5,000 car for 2 years. That's a waste of money. Likewise, you shouldn't be putting $10,000 down on a brand new car so that you can spend $300 a month for a brand new car, when you could have bought 2 $5,000 cars with that same $10,000 down. Now, the man and the woman got a car. Don't let greed dictate your decisions. Don't let false senses of pride dictate your decisions, which, again, that's going to play to the role, because we're talking about the birth control, and we're talking about the Plan B and the contraceptives and the women's empowerment. I'm going to tell you, if you dated the man for the man's character, you wouldn't be sleeping with the man. He wouldn't be wasting his money on you. You would find out if he's going to make the decisions that you like. He will find out if you're going to cooperate with him. You guys will get to know each other on a level where you guys will be satisfied with one another's decisions. Then this is the icing on the cake. Now that you've committed to him, you guys are working towards a life together. And while you guys are working on this life together, you're working towards the honeymoon. He's learning from you on what things you like and what things you dislike, so that he can make be the best man for you. You're working on him, where you're doing the things that you need to do to be the best woman for him. You guys make it to the wedding, where you don't waste $200,000 on an expensive, lavish wedding. You don't waste $200 on an overly priced wedding ring or engagement engagement ring. You take the money that you would have spent on the wedding and the engagement ring, you put it into a high interest trust where you're getting back almost 20% a year off of the money that you could have wasted on that wedding, where you're making almost 20 grand a year back off of the wedding money. And that could be reinvested into stocks, bonds, or just give you a better financial standard of living. Then you guys just go down to the justice of the peace, spend $50 to $100 at the most to get the fill out the paperwork and register your business merger with the IRS so that you can get business breaks. But you don't really get that many business breaks, because once you do that merger, you file joint, and joint has less benefits than singular, because joint is going to be like 150% of two individuals, as opposed to singular, you both get 100% of individual tax benefits. So think about that before you decide to go ahead and get married. But even though you decide to run that route, after the marriage, that's when you start sleeping with the man. If you don't sleep with men until after you get married to the man, then guess what you're gonna do? You're going to be in this movement where you're empowering other women to do the same thing. But guess what? You're going to be pure. You're not going to have that 200, 300 woman body or 200, 300 man body count. So while we got that empowerment through abstinence by refusing to engage in relationships with men, participating, the participants of the 4B movement aim to reclaim their autonomy by express dissatisfaction with policies that they perceive as infringing on their rights. And this form of protest is seen as a way to assert control over their bodies and live in response to perceived misogyny and anti-women rhetoric from political figures. That's not true. That's not true at all. The fact is, while that's what the feminists are believing, you have to understand the women who are refusing sex in protest of these restrictions are taking a stand against a systematic oppression that they believe exists. What's happening is that the government is saying that we're not going to continue providing you with an escape plan for your bad decisions. That's what's happening. If you don't want to be pregnant, don't get laid. And that's a man's perspective, because you've got to choose to sleep with that man. Before, even when the contraceptives was there, the women would turn the men down if the man don't put enough money up on the table. So now that the government has said, well, ma'am, if you get pregnant because you're trying to chase this man's wallet, you've got to take that child or give it to the dad. Do you believe that a woman should be frustrated or angry at the fact that she has to take responsibility for something? Because I don't. But while they're saying that their bodies are their own and that they will not be silenced or controlled, women never wanted to be silenced. They never, well, first of all, you can't silence a woman. They're supposed to silence themselves. And then there is no reason to control a woman, because a man is supposed to protect the woman, not control her. So I don't know why women feel like they're being silenced and controlled. They're expected to be respectful of themselves, and they're expected to be respectful of their partner, and they're expected to show respect to their family and their relationship. So if you're not supposed to say anything negative about the relationship, if you can't think of anything positive to say, shut up. Then it's not controlling just because the man is making sure that you don't get hurt, the same way the CIA makes sure that Donald Trump doesn't get hurt, the same way that your husband and your boyfriend is supposed to make sure that you're not getting hurt. So I don't understand why you're not willing to allow your man to protect you, because you're allowing him to do that. The same way you allow your lawyer to speak for you in court. He might say some stuff that's a little bit shady that you don't really agree with, but he won your case. That's what you paid him for. That's what you picked the man for. You picked the man to represent you. So as long as he's representing you the way you would have expected yourself to be represented, that's what you're supposed to be doing. Then you're supposed to put in as much effort into this man to make sure that the man is capable of protecting and providing you the way you want to be provided for. It's a brave move with what these women are doing, and this move has sparked an important conversation about women's rights and sexuality. But what it did not spark is the rights of men, because the women want the ability to control whether or not a man can reproduce. We have the whole area of Asia right now that is dealing with a population crisis because of birth control restrictions. And now you're looking at the women that are continuously controlling the birth for the last 100 years. And now you're saying that just because the government is going to take away the women's ability to restrict the creation of life, that the women are being oppressed? Well, no, actually, truth be told, that particular decision from the government may have just liberated the men, because now the men are not going to be manipulated and controlled by the same negative behaved women that were utilizing sex as a tool to get stuff or money. Now we're in a situation where the women are going to be in a position where if and when they get involved with the man, it's because they want that man. And if and when they sleep with that man, knowing full well that they have no accessibility to contraceptives, that they are willing to have that child for that man, because if they're not willing to have that child for that man, they're going to save it till marriage, which means that all of the men going forward for the next 5 years is going to start coming across more pure women that have less traction, or not less traction. They have less body counts, where they have lower miles. They have more of a innocent factor to them, where the women are not going to be as traumatized by bad relationships because they're not going to put themselves in so many bad relationships. So for many women, this protest is deeply personal, and I don't blame it. They've experienced firsthand the frustrations and despair of being denied access to Plan B, which they should have been denied a long time ago. And they're refusing to be silenced, which by all means, speak up. That's what the podcast is for. Put your two cents or 9 tails into the channel and tell me what you think about this. But one woman who wished to remain anonymous told me that she was denied Plan B at her local pharmacy because the pharmacist claimed it was against their religious beliefs. I'm going to be real with you. In that scenario right there, that was the most ridiculous excuse for you to deny a customer a product. At the end of the day, if you're working in a pharmacist, you sell a product and a customer walks up and says, I want that product. You cannot tell the customer, I am not going to sell you that product because I don't believe in that product. That's what you sell. You either sell the product or don't come to work. Or if you don't feel comfortable with selling the product, Hashib, you tap your homie on the shoulder and let Rick Ross come over here and charge it to the boss. That's what you need to do. But at no point in time, so you should be saying, oh, it's against my religion. It's against my religion to sell you a product. I'm going to be honest with you. As much as I don't believe that women should be wasting money on insignificant things, I can tell you right now that there are products listed underneath my podcast right now. There are products listed all over my channel. I encourage you to invest in this channel the same way I'm going to invest in this channel, and I'm going to invest in you guys so that you guys can get the knowledge and information from me. But if you buy something off of my channel that you didn't necessarily need, I am not going to stop you from spending irresponsibly. I'm just going to tell you how to spend responsibly. I tell you that before you spend $350 an hour for financial information, that you spend $3 a month on my channel getting that same financial information. You understand? I'm just going to be real with you. That's less than 10%. That's 1%. You know what I mean? And then one of the things that I also noticed is that it was this movement has become a very profound movement, that the vulnerability that's involved in this is one that, we're not going to forget this for years, because I mean, when it's going to be in the history books when women started behaving as a protest to restrictions to birth control. Look, I gotta say, that's probably one of the best backwards jobs that the government has ever done. That reverse psychology right there, in order to get the women to cooperate, piss them off. I'm like, high five, fellas. But many women, you guys are expressing feelings of fear regarding your safety and the autonomy due to the rising anti-abortion sentiments and increasing violence against women. I'm going to be honest, there ain't that much violence against y'all. Y'all are violent against men. Y'all are violent against each other. But there isn't all that violence against y'all. And the laws are not saying that with good reason that you can't have abortion. You want to be able to have an abortion without nobody asking any questions. You just want to walk in the room and say, fish hook it out. And they're just going to fish hook it out. No, they have to find out what happened. Why are you trying to get rid of it? Does the father know about it? Did this happen against your will kind of situations before they decide, oh, yeah, she can have one. So you don't want to go through the motions to prove that you deserve to have one, but you want to be in a situation where you could just get it whenever you feel like it, like painting your toenails. It doesn't make any sense. And the anxiety that the women are feeling about the lack of control is going to influence their willingness to engage in the intimacy. So the women are going to be less willing to be intimate with their partners because they don't have control over the government, which makes absolutely no sense. But now you're going to negatively impact your own personal relationship because the US government is not your friend, as opposed to you just going to another country that's probably more acceptable of this particular type of behavior. You're going to instead mistreat your boyfriend or your husband because you don't like the way the US government went. But a majority of the voters were women. You can't tell me that 100% of the women voted for Camilla, because, I mean, that would have been more than 50% of the voters. So for Trump to have won by 75%, since there's 51% of women in the United States already, if 75% of the population voted for Donald Trump, you know that somewhere between 40 and 60% of that was women. Because some men did vote for Camilla. So you know that more women voted for Trump than women voted for Camilla. That's just how it is. So for some women, abstaining from sex serves as a coping mechanism in response to the social pressure and threats to their reproductive rights. The men don't have any rights. The women should be on an equal platform. This reflects a border disconnect with societal expectations and gender roles. Women have not been attached to gender roles for about 60 years now. Actually, no, 80 years now, because they had detached from the gender roles, the female gender roles, in the 60s, and it is 2024. So it's almost, what are we looking at right now? Almost 65 years to be exact. They just have not had those roles adhered to. So these personal stories are what's driving the protest movement, and they're what's giving women the courage to take a stand. And women don't really need a courage to take a stand. Women just need to be pissed off that they don't get their way, and they're going to take a stand. Men need to be motivated that change is needed before they take a stand. Women don't really need that much motivation. They just have to be unsatisfied with the current outcome, and they're immediately taking a stand. Which is why you take your girlfriend to the restaurant, let her fight with the waiter. But the women are saying that they will no longer be shamed or judged for their sexual choices. You're not being shamed, because men are saying that the women that are out there throwing it against the wall like a career, that have more of a body count than the average man, we're not shaming those women. We are saying that that particular type of behavior is not wife material, and that is not what a man is looking for. You're not being judged for it, but you can't tell me that you made a mistake by trying to beat Little Kim's record in the Guinness Book of Records. And then after you've done that, that we're going to say, oh, we're going to treat you with respect. Now, no. Like the child that ran through the whole football team, she's going to have to change schools. And when the rumor from her old school gets to her new school, she's going to get bullied for that. That is going to be the consequences of her decision. Because she decided to have a 25 guy affair in the bathroom after school. The consequences of your actions is not you being shamed by other people. The consequences of your actions is not people judging you for your sexual choice. Your sexual choice is your sexual choice, but there should not be contraceptives being made where the life inside of you is going to be negatively impacted because of your sexual choice. So that's why these women are no longer being denied the care that they need by this protest from what they believe. And they're sending a message that's resonating deeply. And This one is inspiring other women to take action. And this movement may lead to significant shifts in how women view relationships with men, potentially creating tension or misunderstanding in romantic dynamics. And men may feel uncertain about how to navigate these changes, or may support the cause while also feeling personally affected. I support the cause, and I am definitely personally affected, because there are going to be more women with a lower body count, because the women are going to stop throwing themselves at the crowd. You're going to have a lot less women twerking in the streets, because they're going to end up pregnant if they twerk in the streets. So they're going to have a lot less women that are carrying themselves in a derogatory and defamatory fashion, because they're not going to be willing to accept the consequences of their actions anymore. They don't have an escape route. You can't just drop you a couple Plan Bs and take you some Tylenol and wake up in the morning and you cramping because you took a Plan B to keep the man from being pregnant. I mean, the man from being a father. Your stomach hurt. You're not in the mood. Yeah, how are you destroying the man's emotional stability and saying that, oh, you have a right to autonomy? Because the man's DNA is inside of you and he deserves to be the father. So why are you being selfish about the situation? So the refusal of sex as a protest can also be seen as a call for solidarity amongst women. The same way I seen Camilla do that solidarity thing amongst women when she was talking about how she don't need to be the mother of the children. The women need to stick together. She didn't talk about how the women need to stick with their husbands and women need to support their families and women need to do more for their families. She said, oh, the women need to unite and band together and have a united front. How the heck? The women, females take up 51% of the population, but you would need 100% of the women to vote for Camilla in order for that to work. 10% of the women vote for Trump. It's over, which is pretty much what happened. But women encouraging themselves to unite against policies that threaten their freedom to be irresponsible, because it's not literally their right to be irresponsible. They have a right to be responsible. They fought for additional rights to be even more responsible. And then they adhere to the freedom of not being held to those responsibilities. That's what happened. Now, one of the most powerful movements I've seen in this protest is when a group of women gathered outside a local pharmacy holding signs that read, "My body, my choice," and access to Plan B is a human right. That's not true at all, because access to Plan B didn't come out before humans or rights. Access to Plan B came out after humans and human rights. So that's just a manipulation tactic right there. But it was a moment of pure defiance. Clearly, this happens every 3 weeks, and one that sent a clear message to lawmakers and policymakers. These women are not going away, and they will not be ignored. Well, if the women are protesting the pharmacy, guess where they're not? At work. And if they don't need a job, guess what's paying the bills? The man. So while she protesting for whatever she thinks she should be protesting for, she's not taking care of her relationship. She's abandoning all of her responsibilities to fight for the ability to abandon her responsibilities. How does that make sense? The refusal of some women to engage in sexual relationships as protests against the restriction on birth control underscores the intersection of reproductive rights, gender roles, and personal autonomy. The protest movement in America battling against Plan B restrictions is a powerful reminder of the importance of women's voice in the fight for reproductive rights, while ignoring the predominant pinnacle role of men's voice in his right to be a father when the women do not want to reproduce. The movements like 4B Initiative, which originated in South Korea, highlight the growing frustration among women regardless of their rights and societal structures of the government that dictates what they're going to do in their lives. As these decisions continue, they reflect broader themes of empowerment, resistance, and the ongoing struggle for reproductive justice. Men have been begging for the reproductive justice for a long period of time, because you have to understand that the women that are terminating the pregnancy without telling the man, and the women that are taking the child from the man and putting the man on child support without ever allowing the man to have a life with his child, are really destroying the reproductive justice. Nobody talks about that part, but this movement is one that is driven by the courage and determination and refusal to be silenced, which I strongly believe that it's actually that is the foreshadowed concept, because truthfully, it is selfishness and the ability to be highly irresponsible that is driving the determination and a refusal to be silenced. So with that being said, by all means, don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments. And I really appreciate you guys coming to tonight's show. And if you're interested in learning more about what they're doing with the reproductive laws and the rights of women, and then the fair rights of men for that matter, be sure to check out some of the videos that we have coming up on our topics, because we got a lot of different things coming up real soon. Also, make sure, ladies and gentlemen, that you like and subscribe. If you like what you see in the comments, make sure that you throw super likes, super emojis, special thanks, and special gifts to help support the podcast. And if any event, ladies, you don't like it, make sure that you share the show with somebody who also doesn't like it with you. And don't just converse about it with one another. Put your 2 cents on the podcast, and we can talk about it together. So with that being said, ladies, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, I'm going to keep asking y'all to make it make sense. So ladies, please make it make sense. Before I walk out the door, I want to give a special shout out to Twitch, Red Void, Omni81, Liberty Twisher, Silly Emma. I really appreciate you guys coming to the podcast. Thank you guys very much. Special shout out to those of you that are on Twitter that are giving us a C. I really appreciate you guys swinging by. It is definitely, without you guys, none of this would be possible, and I really appreciate you guys for coming through. So thank you guys for coming to This and That. I'm your host, Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between, and I'm going to see you guys tomorrow night.